Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll be having a look at the latest GFS, GM, ECMWF and GFS ensembles. Now it is looking like we're going to be having quite a stormy, unsettled, windy and rainy period of weather coming up. The one advantage of that is that it is going to be milder than it has been over the last couple of days. The last few days we've had quite gloomy, some sunshine in areas, but generally quite cold, whereas into this week, the temperature is going to rise quite significantly to around low teens, but it's probably going to feel still reasonably cool in the wind and rain, but all the frosts and that sort of stuff will probably die out over the next couple of days. But we'll have a look at the current GFS run. Do remember though, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you do like and subscribe. And as you can see currently, we do have an area of high pressure over the top of the country, which has brought the colder air in from the northeast. And you can see there's still a bit of cold air over the country, but it's nothing too substantial at this stage. Majority of the cold air is towards Scandinavia and northeastern Europe. But we can still maybe see an overnight frost tonight before it diminishes over the next couple of days. If we have a look at the pressure pattern, you can see that high pressure drops to our south, and then you see the Atlantic really starting to accelerate, and you see cyclogenesis potentially happening with this area of low pressure as it's running right on that boundary, which is where the jet stream is. When we do get centres of the lows sitting right in a dip of the jet like it is here, it can allow cyclogenesis where it rapidly deepens, and it'll be very interesting to see how it develops with that. On this current GFS run, we do have wind and rain moving in, southwesterly wind, so mild, yes, but you can see big areas of low pressure, very tight isobars, and could be a named storm with that. Now, the centre of the low is not coming directly through the UK, so it's still a little bit uncertain over whether it will be a named storm, but looking at how tight those isobars are, and given the potential impacts from that, given that schools are coming back next week, I do suspect the Met Office may be considering at least yellow warnings and potentially an amber warning and force for wind, if not a named storm with this. If you look at the upper air temperatures, you can see there is cold air, cold polar maritime air coming in behind it. So what's that going to allow? It's going to allow temperatures to drop a little bit. It's going to feel quite cold in that wind and rain, and it's going to allow blustery showers to come in with that cold air mass and the strong sun. It's going to allow quite a lot of convection coming off, sort of a typical April showers sort of pattern in March. But you can see that cold air is not really going to make itself to the UK, as it always gets very modified over the Atlantic. It may allow a bit of snow over Scottish hills and mountains, but generally elsewhere it will be highs around high single digits, low teens, lows not getting down too low, even though the upper air is quite cold, as the wind and cloud will never really allow temperatures to fall too much. But you can see really westerly based, similar to last winter. We're seeing now where we have really westerly based wind and jet stream, and it's really down to the polar vortex, which is over 10 HPA, is well above average in terms of its wind speed for this time of year, getting near to record average. Don't think it's going to quite get to record levels, but it's very close, and when the final warning does happen, it could allow, considering how strong it's been, us to return to more blocking patterns again. But that will be nearer the future. That's many weeks away. Right now it's really strong, and it's going to be powering up these areas of low pressure along with the jet stream. And you can see we really maintain this westerly based. You do see high pressure tries to build in from the south, but it only really settle things down in the south and southeast. And if we do see clear skies next Monday, if this pattern did come off in about a week's time, we could be seeing quite high conditions, high temperatures in the south. You can see upper airs are not too mild, they are still reasonably cool, but you get highs in the mid-teens, perhaps with strong sun, and if the winds fall a little bit further south, and you can see a lot of sunshine. Further north, where we see this air mass boundary, there's always going to be weather front strung along there, so it's looking like very wet, especially in the north and west. Even when the low pressure systems are not driving in, we're still going to have probably rain and rain showers moving in. You see that high pressure does try and build in, but low pressure keeps pushing it out, and we do see low pressure winning out. But by the end of the run, high pressure does try and amplify the jet and return. but low pressure is always close by and does start to muscle it out, and by the end of the run we are still in a quite westerly based pattern. So from day 10 onwards, the GFS does suggest we may see a couple days break here or there with higher pressure, maybe some warmer conditions and more dry weather. But generally it does look like a very unsettled March coming, with around average temperatures and probably above average precipitation. Now if we have a look at the GM run, see whether this does fall along with the GFS. In the short term, you can see cyclogenesis happening along that jet stream, very deep area of low pressure. You see very strong temperature gradient, isobar gradient there, which is going to allow the winds to really pick up, showing you where those strongest winds will be on the southern flank of this storm into Western Ireland. So I wouldn't be surprised if Met Éireann names it before the Met Office. We've seen that happen many times before, but Met Éireann, which is the Irish Met Office, will name it before the UK Met names it. So we'll see over that in the next couple of days. This is looking sort of Wednesday, overnight Thursday, for the real impacts of this. Beyond that, you see very strong gusts of wind quite widely across country. There's no, unlike there where we do have a really strong isobar gradient, there's not a really strong isobar gradient in any particular pattern or position, but generally there's a very strong northwesterly wind driving in quite a lot of rain and quite gusty winds as well. As we move through, we maintain a very westerly pattern. We do see reasonably cold air again coming in from the northwest, only really giving wintry conditions perhaps to the north over hills. And generally low level areas will generally see rain, maybe some hail with those showers. If we go back to the pressure patterns, you can see, very, very westerly based, and high pressure does start to build in by day 10, so it does follow in from the GFS. The GFS does break it down. On the GM, it does look like this will last at least for a few days, and you can see it's building into quite warm air, so that could be some very high spring-like conditions, so contrasting between the GFS and GM by day 10. That's not too unusual, to be honest, that they are diverging, but it's just very interesting to see which one will win out. This area of high pressure is trying to build in from the south or the westerly jet stream. Too difficult to say at the moment, and we'll have a look at the ECMWF and see which one that supports. But definitely does look like for the next week it's going to be very westerly based with a lot of wind and rain. If we have a look at the ECMWF, very similar pattern to the GFS and GM in short term. Very strong winds again, potentially for a named storm there. Beyond that, low pressure remains dominant, and as we head towards day 10, high pressure does start to build in. But it's building in a bit to our west and a bit to our south, which can allow some colder air to seep in, especially in the east. This is sort of a typical pattern where there'll be a weather front strung along here, which could provide quite persistent rain as it's quite stationary. Now, it's within higher pressure, so if we do see that, it's very much going to be sort of relief rainfall over higher ground as air masses collide, and it will be probably quite cloudy, gloomy with light rain, drizzles. So it does high pressures building in with quite strong upper air temperatures, but since there is some colder air to our east, it does look like this could be a bit more of a gloomy, rainy high, rather than a clear sort of spring-like warmth that we were seeing in the GM. So all three weather models are going for a slightly different pattern by day 10. GFS not building that high in completely and sort of breaking it down, the GM building in and having sort of spring-like conditions, and the ECMWF trying to build it in, but sort of being stalled by some colder air, allowing more gloomy and rainy conditions to perhaps persist. So it does look like we may at least get a break, a temporary break from the westerly winds, and we'll have to see how long it does last. If we have a look at the GFS ensembles for the upper airs and precipitation, you can see quite cold at the moment, and it does rise very rapidly with that warm and then following cold front with that potential named storm. We'll have to see whether it does get named in the next few days. Quite a lot of precipitation around with that. Nothing too substantial in the south, in London, but I suspect further northwards there could be a lot more rain. Beyond that, in the longer term, it remains cool before temperatures do rise again, and you do see precipitation is still there, but it is diminished a little bit. No massive spike, so that suggests there could be a pressure rise, especially in the south, maybe getting towards northern areas as well. It'll be interesting to see if that does happen. But you can see temperatures around average, nothing going too cold. A few on some members going cold, of course. There's always a chance we do get a sort of brief northerly blast this time of year. But again, there's the same chance that we do get a southerly blast as well, sort of a heatwave spring-like pattern. So, not really a clear trend in the longer term in terms of temperature. It's really, at this time of year, it's really down to whether we see cloud and rain. For example, today, even though we did have quite cold upper air conditions, we had nice sunshine where I am, and although the temperatures were suppressed, it still felt quite warm out there in the sunshine. But yeah, very difficult to say what's going to really happen in the long term. If we do have a look at the 10-metre winds, you can see generally quite high for this potential named storm, then generally high in a few ensemble members, low in ensemble members, really symbolic of a sort of high pressure, low pressure split. So it's going to be very uncertain. And lastly, we have a look at the 2-metre temperatures. You see nothing too cold, again, nothing too mild. Again, a few ensemble members going maybe 15, 16, 17 degrees, feeling quite warm and spring-like. Others going maybe 6, 7, 8 degrees. So nothing too special, but it'll be very interesting to see what happens with these low pressure systems and the potential named storm. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.